Bobby, Vital Conflict. I'd be astonished if you didn't know this dude by now. He's located on 300 East Grace Street, Richmond, Virginia, 23219. Record store. This dude is amazing. He's a sweetheart. He's definitely a king in this town. I have so much respect for this guy, so much love for this guy, and he has just as much respect and love back at you. This dude speaks for himself. Business owner, does everything. Jack of all trades, DJ, collaborator, booker. Goddamn, this dude does fucking everything. This was a really fun one. I know I say it every time. Wash, rinse, repeat. This was a really fun one for me. Kind of was like a low-key PSA to the whole local scene too, man. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about pressing plants, all kinds of shit. Metallica, Napster. Very appreciative of this one. Very appreciative that he took the time to do it. Bobby, you're a goddamn saint. You're an amazing dude. This is episode 6 of It's Still Our City, brought to you by Notterly and brought to you by RVA Magazine. Man, let this one cruise. This guy talks some shit and it's legit. I hope you guys dig it. Yeah, here it is. Fuck it. Listen to it. Fucking listen to it. Just fucking listen to it.
Ooh, what you got?
Only the finest 99 cent.
All right.
Mini absolute line.
Well, we'll get into the history about how I used to work for the ABC store. There's a fun story that goes with that.
So, how old are you, Bobby?
I think I'm 39. I have to double check sometimes. I think I turned 39 this year in April. So by the time you hear this, I'm 39. I'm just kidding. Oh, that's not to say that you can't get this done in 2 months. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that like that.
Knowing us, I don't know, man.
I didn't mean like that.
Where'd you grow up, dude?
All right. I was born in Alexandria, Virginia. I lived there through high school. After high school, I spent a good amount of time in Woodbridge, Virginia, and then I moved back to Alexandria for a second, and then indefinitely moved to Richmond in 2010.
Okay.
Secret Nova, bro. Fight me.
I mean, I am too, man. I'm from Fredericksburg.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know a lot of people from Fred to Alexandria and Woodbridge. I'm just glad they made it out of their 20s.
I'm Bob Beach, Norfolk, for the record.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I thought a part of you was in Virginia Beach for a minute.
No,
there,
never.
I'm completely wrong. So when you moved here, when did the record store Vital Conflict open up?
2008.
Okay, and so it was someone else, and then you moved in?
Brandon Farrell from Government Warning, Direct Control, First Drummer Municipal Waste, and his wife Lauren at the time. He's passed away, but he opened the store in 2008. Prior to that, was doing No Way Records, big, very important hardcore punk label for years before that.
Rest in peace, that dude. That guy ruled. Okay. So it was there in like 2008. Then
all
you
the
came
way
in
till 2022.
Okay. So when you got it, did Joe Kirkus help in any facilitation of anything? I remember I thought he was really excited when you were coming to town. I didn't know if he helped you meet the prior owner or not. Maybe I'm completely nuts. It was a long time ago.
Let me see. I met Joe Kirkus through Strange Matter.
Yeah.
I did Dort Strange Matter. That was actually, so I did not move to town to do Vinyl Conflict by any stretch of the means.
Okay.
I moved to Richmond. I was working for a company called the Independent Label Collective. It was a record distribution company. I was a sales rep. It was based out of the building that is now Hardywood. And we did independent distribution for record labels. And I was literally calling record stores across the country, being like, you should carry your catalog. Quite a number of really interesting Richmond people worked for this company, and that's what brought me down. And within the first year of moving down, I guess it was the tail end of that company. So after getting to Richmond, I actually got the job in Northern Virginia and was commuting for a long time before I made the move. Those years are gonna be fuzzy, so I don't want to get that incorrect. But I was commuting for the job for quite a bit of time, and then made the move down. And when we made the move down, me and Melissa, the company closed very shortly after.
Okay.
So I was working with Alex DiMattesa, who does Great Mistake, Sean Rohrer, Tracy Wilson, This guy Dan that lives in Ohio had a label. There's a number of other people, and through this job, that's like when I first got to know Mark Osborne. Mark Osborne was working there.
Shout out, Mark.
Yeah, and a number of other people. So it was cool. We had a lot of helpers. Talia Miller worked there. Ashley Sykes worked there. I'm gonna keep remembering people as it goes on. It was really a cool company. I was working very part-time, and I was working at Vinyl Conflict on Sundays.
Okay, so you were doing Strange Matter door stuff and a little bit of VC and like kind of a little bit of everything?
Yeah, I mean, so what happened there, I'll keep it quick. There was a venue before that, at the same time, I should say, called Sprout.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it's where Pupatella is now. And I was doing door there. So Alicia was one of the bartenders.
Warren, okay,
and
cool.
Fanny and Freeman and a bunch of people there. Jamie Lay, a bunch of people worked there or owned it and so on. There's a whole...
That was like a straight up market or restaurant. And then it did cool shows on the weekends, or do they do shows all the time?
Nighttime.
Okay.
I think it was a very part-time thing. I can't quite remember. That was like so fresh to me moving to town. It was like I had like lost my job. I was doing door shifts just to get by kind of thing. And then unfortunately that place closed.
Yeah.
And Alicia also worked at Strange Matter and was like, hey, we need door people. And that's where I like met everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody. So like,
good place to meet people.
yeah, I was working at Vinyl Conflict on Sundays, and then I was doing door one night a week, 2 nights of the week. All of a sudden I was working quite a bit. There's other stories. You know, I ended up working for a number of other places before I took the record shop, but
door shifts, man, they're something else, but you can fall back on them if you're good.
Yeah, it was good money when it needed to be, for sure. And it got to a point where when I started doing other things, I didn't have the side time for it. It got exhausting, but it's what got me the foot in the door to start booking. You know what I mean? Like, because I was just there so much, and then my friend needed a gig, and then I booked a show, and then me and Mark collaborated on so many gigs, all those Strange Matter Vinyl Conflict presents. That was just because I was there all the time. I mean, a lot of that was Mark, really, you know.
That guy is
credit where credit's due.
Fucking master at booking. I haven't seen him in a few years. I hope that dude's doing good.
Saw him last week.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. God, man, that guy ran the town when it came to good shows for a long, long fucking time. Okay, so just doing door stuff, and then you're picking up at Vinyl Conflict. Obviously, you're like building a cool relationship with that guy. What made you suddenly, what put it on your radar that, hey, man, maybe I could run this thing? Or
Well, him and Lauren got pregnant, and they were thinking about moving, and they were just kind of like viewing their options, and like a conversation came up where they're like, hey, I think we're gonna move, we may sell it, we may close. And I was just like, oh no. And they're like, do you know anybody who would want to buy it? And I was just like, oh, can I?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so that was like just a weird conversation to have when you're like looking back at it. I was like 25 or something. Like, I don't know. And we just sat there, and I remember being like, oh my God, I'm only 25. I remember Brandon being like, yeah, I was 25 when I opened this. And I was like,
that's awesome.
oh, okay. So that's not crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I remember him saying that, being like, oh, a lot of the like big scary of it, like, seemed possible. I'm not saying it seemed easy. It's just like, oh, okay, well, if you did it when you were 25, then maybe this isn't insane.
Just a little bit of positive reinforcement, you know?
So, yeah,
Goes a long way.
we had a lot of discussion going back and forth about how, where, and why, what would make sense. And we landed on something that was like good for both of us. And they moved. And
that had to have been cool for him too, because he probably trusted you with the throne a lot, you know? You guys probably got tight, so he probably wouldn't have wanted it really any other way.
Sure. I mean, there was other people who had come up, and, you know, other options. There were. I wasn't the only person at the time, but you know, that's years ago. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, it was intimidating for sure. I was at that point working for the Virginia ABC store, and I was training to be a store manager. So I was in a program training to be a store manager. They were floating me around to different stores and seeing how I interacted with different groups of people in a retail setting. And I was like a couple weeks from finishing when I made the purchase, and I had the record store. This is my favorite story because it's so silly. I bought Vinyl Conflict, and I did not tell them. And I was at the end of my training to like become an ABC manager, which, shout out, was like an $18 an hour position.
Fuck yeah, killing it.
In 2010.
$11 now.
And like I started getting all these phone calls when I was at work, and it was my employees being like, hey, someone's trying to trade in something. Oh, this band stopped in. Can we give them cash? Just like very normal record store stuff. And I was taking, so I got all these write-ups. And then they're like, okay, we're going to kick you out of this management program, but you've done good otherwise. Can you explain yourself? Why are you on the phone all the time? Like, you almost aced this and we were going to give you this job, but we have to let you go. Can you explain to us before we let you go why you're on your phone all the time? And I was like, oh, I bought a record store and those are my employees calling me. And they're like, what? They're like, what are you talking about? And I was just like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. They're like, why didn't you leave? And I was like, well, I don't know. Have you owned a record store before? Like, I'm scared. I need this paycheck, X, Y, and Z. And they're like, are you serious? And I was like, well, I don't know how it's going to go. Like,
yeah, you're trying to weigh your options.
I want some income still at some point. They're like, would you have completed this process and opened the record store? And I was like, oh, I didn't really think about it. I was like, I guess I would have figured it out. And they're like, okay, you're fired.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then like, that's when I went full time with the record store. That was like a couple of weeks into owning it. It was very early, very, very, very early.
I mean, that's smart though. Like you're probably freaking out a little, and yeah, like you said, you need steady income. And then just the fact that you're just on your phone sending a couple texts, and then they just feel so like deceived by that. Like it's fucking corpo ABC.
Yeah.
I worked for the ABC store for a little while in Fredericksburg, right by the college, and it was an interesting job. But yeah, like when it comes to the corpo scum like mindset of like, oh, we use this phone, how disrespectful. We're like training you and offering you like this wonderful new career, Bobby, and you're on your phone. You don't take it seriously. Like I would go to eat Triscuits and the manager's like, you didn't clock out for your break. And I'm like, no one's been in here in 20 minutes. And I just ate some Triscuits, my dude. He's like, well, you got to clock out for your break. I'm like, what the it's like 30 seconds of fucking Triscuits. They just expected to be a robot under the fluorescent lighting.
I had this really awesome manager named Courtney, and in the world of things, we've reconnected. I found her at, I'm not going to put out where she works now, but I saw her, and it's like awesome because she was really cool back then, and I get to see her when I go shopping at this one spot. And it's like, it's fun because like some of the people were cool, man. And like, you know, mentioning Joe Kirkus earlier, he was an ABC dude, Mike Paparo. There's like a number of people who, you know, I never got to work with them, but I know they worked at other locations and so on.
There was a good squad of people up on the Meadow and Main shop. That's where a lot of those dudes were.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. And then I'm assuming after a few months, you realized you didn't fuck up and everything was going to be all right when it comes to the store.
Yeah, like that whole era is very fuzzy to me. I mean, I was definitely like trying to figure it out. I was working 6 days a week. You know, it was me mostly. I did have some friends and helpers, like people who would like help Brandon as well, like Leland, Dandy Horn, other people like
solid ass dudes.
Yeah. So, you know, and there's a number of people. I couldn't shout out everybody, but we were just trying to figure it out. So I had a little bit of experience behind me running a record label. I had a little bit of experience working for a distributor as a sales rep. I had some, you know, experience behind me booking shows and being in a band. So I had like dipped my toes in a bunch of like.
You had it all.
I had tried a bunch of things, you know, and I had worked at both. I had worked at Smash and DC before that too. So it wasn't like my first record store job.
I've never heard of Smash.
Oh, Smash has been there since the 80s. Cool. It started in it started in Georgetown. I'm going to get the year wrong, but in the 80s, very early, like indie shop, punk rock, and then moved to Adams Morgan. Current owners, Matt Moffat.
Oh, they're still rolling.
Oh, yeah.
Cool,
oh, yeah,
sweet.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Big shout out to Smash. So they had I was working for Smash before I moved. I was working for Smash while I worked for this record distributor in Richmond. That was my Sunday job. And when I moved to Richmond, I switched from one shop to the other.
So you weren't here that long and just became an immediate staple. That's fucking sick. Like you kind of hit the ground running, dude, very quickly.
It's funny to like look back at now, and I'll agree with you. I wouldn't at the time. I would have been like, no, I'm just doing my thing. I was just trying, but like I was just hungry, man. Like I wanted to be involved in things, and yeah, I immediately was just like trying to go straight for booking shows. And
how long after you took the reins, like, did you get to just kind of sit down one night and be like, whoa, like, this is working, this is okay, like, I'm relaxed?
Maybe after 10 years. Okay. And then that's not to say it hadn't already, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not to say it hadn't been working.
Yeah.
But I think it took me quite a while before I was like, whoa.
We did it.
We did it.
Yeah,
you know
you're your own worst critic or whatever. So.
I am my own worst critic and my own worst enemy, like for sure, all day. I will take that one. But yeah, I mean, it was going. I think that's another thing is like for a long time I maybe was hesitant to how it was doing when people saw it, however they saw it, or we were talking about earlier, like we're constantly in this ebb and flow of people thinking that we're doing some monstrous, crazy, awesome thing, and the next person thinks that like they can't believe that the lights are on, and like they walked by the store and there was nobody in it, and how does a record store last? And then like you walk by a different week and it's like walk by the week when we're like selling United Blood tickets. And no, that's actually a funny day. Like we did that. We were selling tickets around the block for 2.5 hours, and then like we wrapped that up, and then someone walked in at like 7:01 and the store was empty, and they're like, oh,
you're not doing too much.
Record stores. And I'm just like sitting here like, you have no idea. We always joke about it. Anytime we have like a crazy Saturday or whatever, the second the store clears out, I was like, it's coming. The boomer's about to walk in. And he always walks in and he's always like, I used to have these things. People want those. And I'm like,
yeah, for fuck's
We just
sake.
had like the craziest Saturday of the year. You walked in right when nobody was in the store. And they're like,
yeah, you're king dipshit just waltzing right in. It is weird when people feel like they want to kind of give their own opinion and undersell something like that. Like, who wants this now? It's so weird and pointless. How many tickets were there for United Blood?
It's at the Canal Club. I'm not positive the actual capacity.
4?
No, it's upstairs, so it's close. It's closer to 1,000, but I don't know what the exact number was.
Okay. How quickly did that shit go, my man?
Well, we did physical walk-up only, so we weren't doing anything online. So we just sold till we sold. I don't think I got a final number on that, but
Day of, though.
It was all in one day. And then when it went online, I think we sold maybe I don't want to give wrong numbers. Maybe close to a third in person. And then they went online the next day and sold out in less than 5 minutes.
And people are coming in and buying stuff here and there as they're in there getting the ticket
cool.
too. That's a sick fucking day.
It was cool. Yeah, and the weekend's going to be awesome. I'm stoked they brought it back.
That is going to be a banger weekend. And then there's also like all those other like waste shows I think happening. I think I'm working
the same weekend. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's going to be hard to catch everything. I'm really excited. Like, yeah, shout out to that camp for setting those up. I'm not sure who's in charge of setting them up. Maybe Tony. Shout out. Like, Annihilation Time's coming. Like, it's so stacked. Like,
that Thursday's so fun. I'm definitely going to work that Friday. And then I think the Saturday nights at the National. Your stuff is all weekend at Canal, right?
I didn't book that fest. I'm not involved in United Blood. I'm just just doing pre-sales.
Oh, you're helping facilitate.
I have nothing. I have nothing to do with United Blood.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Yeah, no, they're just friends. They're just friends. Like, we offered a space for people to walk up to.
It's crazy, like just how competitive this place can be sometimes. It's almost like a bummer. Like I'll see like this European band or this band from like Japan coming through one night, and then there's like a local banger thing at this house show. It's just so many fucking things that unfortunately land on the same weekend sometimes, and it's like, oh gosh.
But it's kind of cool though at the same time. Sometimes people get screwed, but sometimes it'll be awesome. Like I'm trying to remember, Sabat just came through and there was a hardcore show the same night or something, and like both shows did really well. There's always just like, sometimes there's 2 and 3 shows and they all do well. And like, I think it's really special that we can facilitate that. I talk to other people and like hoping for shows to come to town. I know sometimes it seems daunting because we're so close to like Baltimore and DC. So it feels like we're missing everything.
Yeah.
But like in the grand scheme, we're getting tons of stuff. There's certainly bands I would love to see come to Richmond that haven't, but
That is a weird thing though, where some bigger like national things will just skip right over us, and I don't.
It's a lot of booking agents' problem. They see us as, depending on the booking agent, they see it as a B or C market, and that's their problem. Like, it's not true. I mean, comparatively, like when you're calling New York and LA an A market, sure,
of course,
but like you're just looking at dollar signs and that fact, like you're gonna have a better show here in theory. No shade to those cities, but like it might be smaller, but like.
It'll rage.
Mm-hmm. You're messing up by not picking that,
Yeah, I always wonder too if it's like a venue thing too. Like if it's like in their brains, they don't. Everything you just said.
Agents work with specific people. A lot of venues are owned by the same companies in different cities, so they like link in with these people who work for a certain company, and then they lock in with all the venues that are on their tour route. And I mean, it makes sense if you're like trying to get on tour, then it's safe. Rather than having to hit up strangers all the time. But I think that there's a lot to be said for locking into something simple rather than market research or like, I mean, it's not rocket science. Richmond's scene's incredible. Like, you just open your eyes. Like, I think every band wants to play here, so they should, you know?
Yeah, the scene is so good. And all the local support, it doesn't matter what day of the night or what the fuck you are. Like, you're going to have absolute bangers opening for you. It's so fucking talented here. It's overwhelming. And, like, to circle back to the nights where there are, like, so many different subgenre shows that are happening. And it's like there's a banger at the Warehouse. There's a banger at Cobra. There's a banger at Camel. There's like some house show thing going on. It's
there's 2 raves.
Yeah, exactly. What the Emperor Music Hall presents. But like, we can bleep their name. But like, it's just so weird. And there are nights where I get torn up where I can't figure out which one to go to. And then I fucking see Good Show Steve.
And he went to all of them.
Every single one of them. How, dude?
Shout out to Good Show Steve.
He's the best. He is the best. Good Show Steve is the man. But yeah, I'll get on Facebook the next day and he's got a video of every single band. I'm like, how the fuck do you do this? Monday through Friday.
You should have him on this podcast.
I would love to have him on. I don't know if he'd be on.
He would do it. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Steve, you should. If you ever hear this, you should get on.
Steve, get on the goddamn show.
Make it happen.
I just don't know if he likes, and we can edit this too, I don't know, but I don't know if he wants that attention.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
And like, I don't know if you remember around when you got on the throne, like 2010, 2011, some kid over in that neighborhood, like in Oregon Hill, people were like pressing Good Show Steve shirts. And he got really fucking pissed off.
Oh, he got upset. Was that like post BONEZONE, right? Or that was...
It was post BONEZONE.
Because I took over 2012. I moved down in 2010. I took over 2012.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I moved in 2010, so I kind of remember that. Like,
he's like, where do you get the shirts? I want to know who made them. And I was like, whoa, for real? Like, I want one, but you want to find out who made them because you don't like them. And I was like, okay, I won't look for him anymore. Do you know the person that we're talking about?
No, I don't.
Dude, he's incredible. He just is this really well-spoken, laid back. He's such a sweetheart dude.
His interest is music. And when I say music, I'm not saying like heavy metal. Like, he loves heavy metal, but he'll also go to like a jazz show, a psych show, a hip hop show, a noise show, an art show, whatever. Like, he's like so, and like that's what
he'll know about a dude that like played lead for a certain era of Zappa in like a certain period of time that's playing at like a random market thing in Charlottesville or something. And
yeah. Sometimes when you don't see him in Richmond, it's like he's like, oh yeah, I went and saw Wishbone Ash in York, Pennsylvania, and you're like, oh,
other good show. Good show, Steve. Yeah. It's I think he wakes up and all he thinks about is good music, and then he thinks about like super DIY like Mexican restaurants.
Oh yeah, he knows his food too, for sure.
God, he's a foodie. Lovely guy. Shout out, Good Show Steve.
Well, we'll get you on if you'll have us.
Okay, so everything's been going good for you. You were at the old shop until you said 2022?
Yeah.
Okay. What made you want to, well, not want to, what caused, or what was the decision to go from over there to over here? I was surprised when you were coming over here, but I knew you would kill it still. Like,
sure. So I'll lean diplomatic on this one. Coming out of like lockdown, some opportunities had changed, and the landlord of the building was considering selling the building.
Okay.
So he'd approached us about it, and at that given moment where we were, it's like, I wish I could do it now, but again, I'm also happy we didn't, because we would have never kind of been springboarded into this opportunity. It was going for a market rate of something that I was unfamiliar with, and I've never taken such a bank loan to buy a building. And the big hangups that people see business and stuff is that like retail space comes at a different yield than like a home. So if you're trying to like buy a first time home, there used to be things that would help you, first time home buyers and stuff, but with retail space that doesn't exist. And the down payments and stuff that you could get away with, like, 5 or 10%, don't exist. So to like buy a retail space is something closer to 30%. So, and it's like non-negotiable 30%.
Yeah, just like get lost if you don't have that.
Yeah, basically.
We were in the process of trying to figure that out. just one way or another, I was reaching out to whoever I could, be it family member or friends or industry people, just trying to like, I don't know, banks, trying to figure out like, can I get 20%? And the bigger answer was kind of no, but in the process of it, someone was like, yo, make sure you get your building inspected. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm not going to go too hard into it, but the building inspection wasn't somewhere that met the needs of the price.
Yeah. Usually.
We had a little bit of a disagreement.
Yeah.
And he sold it to somebody else, like, without talking to me.
Oh, sick. Great.
Like, it wasn't like a, hey, you know, I don't like what you're doing here. I'm going to sell it to somebody else. It was like he's like, you got the building inspected. I found that to be disrespectful.
Oh, get the fuck
And
out
he
of
just,
here.
he had already sold it to somebody else. Like, that's how I found out. I found out he had sold it to somebody else by him telling me he had sold it to somebody else. Not that he was going to give someone else a chance. So I panicked. I freaked out. And my buddies that do High Point, specifically Jackie Flav, put me in touch with. Hey, Jackie Flav.
Jackie.
He specifically put me in touch with this guy, John Simmons, who's a real estate dude, and he found we went around for months like looking for a new space. We landed on this one, and it just seemed too good to be true. It was a corner lot.
Yeah.
It was more money, obviously. We went from 500 square feet to close to 1,800 square feet. I don't know. At this point in 2022, we're still coming out of this like lockdown era of mail order that has died for everybody. But at that point, people were still kind of spending stimulus checks and stuff. And
Oh, yeah.
it didn't seem so scary because of our online sales. Not so much our in-store sales. I don't think I could have done it with our in-store sales, but our online sales made me feel like, okay, well, maybe we can afford this space.
We still have water to float in.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, let's ramp up our online game and let's buckle down and utilize this place. So we moved over here, and I did not expect what happened, which is that like the location was incredibly
Well received.
well received. I was
Cool.
a little worried people were going to be bummed we moved, or, you know, I heard some shit talk. Obviously, it's Richmond. What? There's going to be 3 memes made off of this. But like, you know, like, yeah, all of a sudden I'm over here setting up, and while we're in here painting and doing all this stuff, all these kids are coming across this building across the street like, oh, I live across the street, and they're customers of ours.
Oh, cool.
And we live up the
diehards.
street. We live. It's all our customers are like, we actually live over here.
Oh, closer.
We live in Jackson Ward.
Sick. Okay.
We don't have to drive anymore.
Yeah,
All these
we
customers
walk.
from Church Hill are like, oh my God, it was impossible to get to Oregon Hill. Now you're like just on my route to work. Or
That's so
I
cool.
can hit you on the way home because we're just, you know, right off of Broad Street.
That's
and
got to be
Grace.
such a relief, though, too, because it's like all of these different things you're fucking worried about, but people give a fuck about you because you do a good job here and you've looked out for people ever since you've been here.
Right.
And then they're like going out of their way to be like, that honestly, hey, it's kind of even better.
You know, at the old space, it's hard to quantify that. Like, to go to the old Vinyl Conflict, if you did not live in Richmond, the only way was to take 95, come up Belvedere, go all the way across the bridge past campus, and then navigate on Pine Street if you've never done that before. And I can't tell you how many people were like, I've driven up the street 3 times. Where are you? And I had to go out into the street and like hold my hand out. And they're like, oh, I drove by this 5 times. Like,
You did a really good job with signage there, but yeah, if you're like overwhelmed and you just got your shit rocked by everyone coming up Belvedere, I could see how you're like, where the fuck
So now
is
it's
this?
like we're off of the 3rd Street exit when it splits with 64.
Oh, 75, yeah.
Yeah, you just like split right there, like you're going to the convention center and you pass the convention center, you're on the right street, and then you can park. Like that makes a big difference for bands. That makes a big difference for out of town people. You know, we're near hotels, so like we're just something to do if you're over here. Even if you're not like a record fan, like if you're like, oh, I'm looking for a place to shop.
Yeah.
It's a place that like people who are just in Richmond for the day, like
Pop on in, why not?
Bands that play at Richmond Music Hall, Ember, bands that play at the National, the attendees who are going to those shows, stuff that's happening at the convention center. It's like it's snowballed into like, I mean, people who are just going to the library. Like this is all stuff that wasn't really happening before. And before,
brand
again,
new foot traffic.
no knock to Oregon Hill. I still live on Pine Street. Like I love Oregon Hill. I still love Oregon Hill. But like the realistic fact of it was like you had to be going to the record store. We had Rest in Pieces. There was a barber shop.
Yeah.
There were 2 restaurants that opened up after we closed. Like there wasn't a lot going on over there. So it was our neighbors, which is great. College kids who were coming from campus, which is the opposite way of campus, or people going to the river, you know, and sometimes they grab stuff on the way back from the river, but like,
As they're, lost on the way back from the river.
exactly. So like, you know, Hollywood Cemetery, this is a completely different map, if that makes sense. So
No, totally, yeah. I have friends that live over there. I've lived 3 blocks away from here for like 10 plus fucking years. Yeah, that's good. And it seems like you've been doing, and it's really, there was a day that I was getting up and just kind of hungover, and I remember like lighting a cigarette, and I had some like coffee from the day before, like it's still good. And I looked over and there was all these people doing like the costumes for the convention. And they're like flipping through the records and like, fuck yeah, I didn't even think about the people going to the conventions and like dressing up like God knows what, and then popping in here just to kill time.
Like a Comic Con?
There's
sort
a
of?
number.
kinds,
So
like
the convention
Galaxy
center,
Con,
Galaxy
weird
Con's
shit.
cool. The tattoo convention, the anime ink tattoo convention. One of our biggest ones every year. This one just blows my mind. I don't even know what it's called. It's like a high school drama convention. And these kids come in here and just buy every single cassette tape and T-shirt we have. They're just so stoked to like see culture,
Yeah.
and they're like pumped, and like it's stuff that like they're buying David Bowie, they're buying Rolling Stones, they're like thrilled, they're buying like T-shirts with skulls on them that say, you know, Hell Bear. they're buying everything. Sorry, I had to drop a little Richmond nod in there, but no. Like these kids are like excited, and they're coming from all over the country, and like, you know, that's something that like never. It happens every year. It's just like, I don't even know what this convention's called, and like that's a little plus we never had before. It's they add up. They're nice. Like I can't rely on it, but it definitely like helps, you know. And all together, like the tattoo conventions and the anime conventions and the comic conventions, and like it'll be really random stuff. There'll be like Latino heritage conventions, and like that will still bring customers in. And like,
Fuck yeah.
It just like you don't even know what convention's going. Sometimes it's like literally a microwave convention or something. Like it gets real niche sometimes. And the Lego convention's always a big one for us. Why? Collectors. And it's just like,
Dude, they got money though too, and like they love neat shit, dude. Like it's Lego people are something fucking else. Speaking of the tattoo convention, I don't think they've had one over here for a while, but this is a random all-encompassing thing that's definitely throwing us off track, and I'm doing a horrible job at this, but I just remember how pumped Kenny Brown was on you all the time.
yeah, man, rest in.
And
Kenny was a good dude.
You
man.
get those memories, like the photo memories in your phone, and one of them, I'll just show you. One of them was like just him completely butt-ass naked.
in the record store. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Just standing right next to the shittiest looking Christian Bale Mountain Dew Batman promo. Yeah, that's a...
You're gonna put this on the website, right? I met him back in the day because I knew a lot of the cats that worked at later named Jack Brown, earlier called something else, tattoo shop in Fredericksburg, and like my old band used to play at Casey's Music Alley.
Okay,
and
there
I
you
met
go.
him back then.
Right in their backyard.
I met him back then.
What band was that?
I was in Full Nelson.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, hardcore band, adjacent to TAEA Today and Everything After.
Okay, yes.
So they were extremely active. We were fairly active. And yeah, there was like a venue behind it called The Hideout. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so The Hideout was
Fucking
right there.
sketchy garage with
Yeah.
absolutely maybe one like jail cell window, no sort of.
And then the other one had a half pipe in it.
Yep, of course
So,
it did.
Yeah. So
And if you went too fast, you would die on the ceiling.
Yes.
So whoever came up with that was fucking brilliant.
the bottom, the flatbed of the half pipe was liquid nails to the concrete, so there was no give. If you fell, you like really hurt yourself. But you know, whatever.
Just kind of speaking of like, you know, people are landing at the convention center and coming over here. There's a lot of that at that tattoo shop where like people were playing that venue and then walking up to that shop.
Yeah.
And of course, if Kenny's done tattooing that day, he's like 6 Bud Lights into it, like, fuck yeah, y'all metal, yeah. This dude's, he's incredible. I didn't know that.
I met him back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, through Greg Howell. Greg Howell worked there.
There we go.
So,
Cool.
Shout out Greg.
Shout out Greg.
Yeah, it's just funny, all these like little stories of like I've done my time in Fredericksburg, y'all. Like
Thank God it actually wasn't doing time though, because there's a lot of that too.
Oh, I didn't mean that. I just
I'm just joking.
Casey's Music Alley shooters.
All those dudes, they're such good dudes. Kenny was such a fucking good dude. He passed away 2 years ago now, right? September 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking brutal.
He did come to the news store though. He gifted us one of the flyers we have on the wall.
Oh, sweet.
The Sick of It All Swizz flyer.
Probably just ran in here like a bat out of hell.
He gifted us that Swizz Sick of It All flyer, and then a couple months after I hung it on the wall, Shauna, who booked that show at the Safari Club, was like, "How the fuck do you have that?" And I was like, "Hi, nice to meet you." And I told her the story. I don't think she knew Kenny, but that's how we like linked up and started carrying the Safari Club book. And, so, and it's just, I don't know.
That's awesome.
It's real small world.
It is a very small fucking world. This gets a little jumpy right here. There's a reason for that. I bring up a story about a woman who just kind of like walked up and, I don't know, borderline accosted me and wanted me to blow cigarette smoke in her face. She's obviously like a local, probably living in like $1 million a month loft apartment. She was kind of like low key trying to throw shade. I didn't like it. We decided to take it out. So that's why it's jumpy, and we pick back up right here. I'm trying to think of where we can go. Like, we're here in this neighborhood. You're killing it.
I've changed a lot in the sense that at the old store, I was very hardcore punk specific, and coming over here, I've tried to cater to more genres, things we like. I'm not kind of faking the funk with any of it, but like I do carry stuff that I don't know so much, or there are things that I don't necessarily like, but I'm not ordering on the regular basis. You know, the example I'll often use is like I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, and I don't think that has anything to do with why I run a business or why I sell records. But coming over here, and like I think the difference of the old Vinyl Conflict is like you wouldn't really get some dad bringing his 12-year-old daughter and being like, do you have Taylor Swift? At the old store, he'd be like,
The fuck
but like getting over here now, it's like, wow, this is like who the record buying market is. So like, you know, it's stuff that I have in the shelf, but we don't promote it. It's not that I do or don't support it. It's that like I'm a record store.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You're a fucking business. You got to have Beanie Babies.
Someone made a comment recently that there are no more mainstream record stores anymore. And I always like argue, oh, there's record store day, record stores, isn't that? And then like they broke it down for me, and they're right. The mainstream record store was Tower Records, Waxy Maxi, Kent Mill, the list goes on. And we all have one from whatever hometown we're from. And those stores don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, cool. Tower's in Japan. Sure. Everything's in Japan. Like, these major record stores with like corporate sponsors and the big, you know, fold outs when the title comes out, and like Best Buy doesn't even sell music anymore. Like it doesn't. So even the biggest record stores out there in the country that are huge are actually independent. And when they broke it down to me that way, I was like, oh wow, I've never actually like thought about that. There aren't any of these massive chains that are open in 50 states kind of deal, or even 20 states for that matter. Like, so we all kind of have to sell that stuff now, where we didn't have to once upon a time. Even when I started, there were still a couple of those things. Like, I don't even know if FYE still exists, but it's not like it used to be. There used to be an FYE in every mall. Like, I think they're a rare occasion. Or like Hot Topic used to sell records. And
even like the music section in say like Target has dramatically shrunk down to like it's nothing, you know? So it's like you can't, as a consumer, if you're a consumer of the popular stuff, like I don't even know that you can get it there.
if you go to Target, you're finding a top 20, or you can say top 100 for some of the locations, but like it's not going to have every new record coming out on the release date.
Yeah.
And they're not paying attention to that. They're just restocking the same hits over and over again. And it's just like, if that's what sells, sure, but they're not a record store.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just been interesting trying to like keep my finger on the pulse a little bit harder for that kind of stuff, because there's been titles that, you know, I'll give an example of like the newest Doechii record, which I think is awesome, very outside of what we used to sell. And I love supporting a record like that. I think it's awesome. And like it sells well with my normal customers, and it sells well to the people walking in off the street that don't know what we're, you know, known for, being underground music. Like,
I don't know what this is. What is that?
you should check it out. She's kind of like hip hop, R&B,
Little
very
bit of
raw,
Really, really like
very outspoken.
so genuinely like unapologetically honest with her like vocal delivery stuff. Or I don't know, the words are just like, she does not give a crap about anything. We'll say anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it's really refreshing. It's really cool.
I think it's awesome. And I'm liking, I feel like if we tried to push that record in the old tiny location, people would be like, why are you carrying this? Or they would sell it, but or buy it, you know, whatever. We'd sell a couple. Now it's like
Sick.
top seller.
Yeah.
I'm like reordering that and Blood Incantation over and over again, and they're like neck and neck. I'm like, damn, all right, y'all chill. Like,
But like what you just said, like this new kind of like sick artist that everyone's into, it's like hyped about, and then fucking Blood Incantation. You know what I mean? It's like
we still love them. And
Yes,
I invited
you're-
them to the record store after the show, and they said yes. And I was like, hell yeah. And we were going to come back to the store at 3 a.m, and I fell asleep. So shout out Blood Incantation. Woke up to all these text messages of them like talking shit.
damn.
I fell asleep.
Yeah, their most recent record's like incredible. But yeah, it's like you have to evolve. You have to keep something that's like a guarantee.
Well, I didn't stop selling that stuff.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm still buying demo tapes from the bands that are coming out right now.
Yeah.
That I have or haven't heard, for that matter. And I'm buying the demo tapes off the band that's on tour, and I still give pretty good like spotlight shelf space to that kind of stuff. I never want to stop that.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
So
I would always rather support a new local band that's putting a demo out and give them like the same shelf space that I would with some new title that's kind of hip or hype. Like,
totally. How many releases have you done as a label now? So if that's a headache.
no, I can talk and look at the same time.
You've done quite a few, and then I think one of the things that you do a lot, which I think is really cool, is don't you do like kind of a store exclusive limited to 100 color every time you do it?
For some things, yeah. Not everything. Let's see. The last Vinyl Conflict title on the Vinyl Conflict label would have been number 33 or 34.
That's fucking cool, man.
33 or 34. That's everything.
When did you start doing those?
2012.
Okay, so like right out of the
Well,
gate.
that's a lot in a couple of years.
That was one of the things that Brandon did, and I wanted to continue to do. And he actually had a Vinyl Conflict label that has other titles that I didn't put in my catalog that I didn't feel right. I don't know. I feel bad. There's cool titles on there. They're awesome, but I just I didn't feel like it was my project, so I didn't feel like it was right to like start at number 3 or 4. And
I see. Yeah,
I know
that makes sense.
some people were bummed on that, and it was never a direct diss at those groups because they're fucking awesome. But I didn't do them, and I was starting this project. And when I started the label, I actually did it with Grave Mistake. It was a like co-project.
Okay.
And we did that for the first 10 or 15 releases before we split ways, just because of life. And yeah, I mean, even like working with somebody else, they weren't part of that project either. So I started over when I took over the store, and I had always wanted to do a label with it. So we've done tons of stuff. And
What's the last thing you dropped?
I think the last Vinyl Conflict release would have been Battle Master. So maybe I even have the wrong number.
I think Battle Master's one behind, right?
Well, so there's Nicholas F., but that wasn't on Vinyl Conflict.
Okay,
and we can get to that
so
too.
I got confused.
No, you're okay.
I thought that was one of them.
That is the last record I had a hand in releasing.
That Battle Master album was fucking glorious. Jeez Louise.
The last Vinyl Conflict title that I did was Battle Master, and that was number 34.
Okay. So Loud Night was like right before that.
1 or 2 before that. Yeah, maybe a couple.
Yeah, you saved my life during the COVID times when those both dropped. I was like, thank God I can get a tangible.
The last thing I did was Nicholas F., the album, and
Yeah.
CHT. It's
Yeah.
a spelling of teeth smacking. And Nick started his own record label called Trick Dice, and I had released his last album, Stuck, on Vinyl Conflict, and he asked me to be a member of Trick Dice. So I was involved in the entire process of the vinyl releasing of that. I wasn't part of the recording or producing of that album, but I helped him get the vinyl out, and I'm an active part of that team. So that's actually the stack of records behind you right there. So yeah,
Okay.
I still have my hands in things like that. Technically could be a 35th.
Just keep random storage back here. Is it messy back here?
Now we throw parties, ragers, bro.
Real raves.
Yeah, so, I like to help. There's a lot of work I go behind the scenes with like local bands, and if they're trying to release their own records, kind of like walking them through how to press a record. I love linking people up with the connections. I'm not necessarily advertising that anybody can walk in off the street and do that. These are for people that I've like built a connection with. People ask, and I'm not afraid to share it. Honestly, it's really, I'd love to help every single person if I had the daytime. Like, here's the thing. I would tell every single person, I don't have all the time to do that. So like, I typically save it for people I know. So don't take that the wrong way, but drop me an email. If I can help you, I will. I just can't help everybody. That's the thing. So,
nowhere near the magnitude of like what you're saying, and like you're a huge influence here and like a staple here in town. So I'm sure a lot of people blow you up, and some people can
I do my best.
Yeah, exactly. Like just a throwback in my life. That band Ed Gein from Syracuse. Mm-hmm. I was buddies with them, and we were label buddies for a while. And they were on a tour once, and their van broke down. And their van was kind of famous because it was always on like shirt designs where like the van was getting in horrible accidents or on fire, and they were promoting tours that weren't even happening from like decades ago that weren't relevant to like, it's 2006 when they're on tour, but they're saying blowout 1982 tour, like, but so everyone knew like their van from artwork and stuff. their van broke down. I was the closest place in between shows. So they kept their van at my house. And then that just, in Fredericksburg, and then that just became like a curse. Like I'd go to get my mail and there's like 20 CDRs of like the shittiest band names and like someone scribbled in a too thin Sharpie, which you can't get good lines out of it. Just get the fat Sharpie and just learn how to do it right. Maybe they ran out of CDRs. I don't know. But it's like blood splatter and I'm like, oh my God. So like it used to be a thing. Like I guess they thought I knew Ed Gein. They thought I knew Ed Gein and I would just magically hand that over to Black Market Activities or Metal Blade Records. I'm like, yeah, they left it in my mailbox. It's fire.
Yeah.
But that was a cool thing, a monthly thing where my friends and I would get some beers and pop all those demos in. And
yeah, I mean that's the hard thing. I mean, if I'm going to be like brutal honest, like I certainly don't think gatekeeping that kind of information is a behavior that I like to actively follow.
No.
I understand why some people do. I understand why some people don't. But I never felt that like if you know how to do it, why can't you just share it? It's more of like a time constraint kind of thing. Like I can't walk every single band through how to like put a record out.
Yeah, totally.
But I do when I can. And like, you know, I can't release as many records as I'd love to. And I've kind of slowed down, honestly. So like the real skinny of it is coming over here as the stores got busier. It's been harder for me to run a record label.
Yeah.
It's been harder for me to book shows. I've been doing less of it just because of how busy I am. You know, and now I'm chasing more collections out of town and just in the store pricing and helping people and talking to people. I would love to do more. And when I hit the stride, I will. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not booking shows and I'm not saying I'm not releasing records either. Yeah. It's definitely on my schedule, but
you're still coming out of this adjustment sort of period.
I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, totally.
And we've only been here 2 years now. You know, I spent a lot of time like learning how to do this stuff. I'm no expert. I've done everything wrong.
Learn from your mistakes, though.
I have pressed records with the demo recording, not like their demo, but like I pressed the wrong version. They gave me a demo and a master, and I pressed the demo.
Only test press.
Yeah, I rejected the test
Okay,
press.
Thank God. Okay.
Yeah. But I've done it. I
got a Multicult album years ago. Multicult's like members of like ex-members of Flowers in the Attic, Baltimore people,
I saw them.
guys from like Triac and shit.
Yeah.
But whoever put it out accidentally completely went through with the wrong band's recording.
Yeah, dude.
So it was like their artwork and everything.
Oh, it's the wrong record?
It's the fucking wrong record.
Wow,
and I was like, man, you know, this is different coming from them. I kind of like this. And I messaged the drummer at Triac and I was like, hey, you guys got really light. And he's like, no, it's the wrong thing, you asshole. And I'm like, I didn't fucking know,
dude. You wouldn't expect that.
It. I can't believe that went that far through, like where it got pressed with the artwork and everything.
We had a situation when my band, or it was at the time, it was Claire Morgan, we put out a record and like we had like half of the records came back like crazy bent and warbly. So we had to open everything up and just like cycle through.
That'll
like,
happen.
Right, what do we need
horrible.
to do? Yeah,
I've never had. I'm gonna say it never happened. It happened to me last year. I did a split release. This is something that I haven't recovered from. And
oh no, I'm sorry.
Oh God, this band from Finland, they're friends of mine. Like they wanted to split release the album with us, and we were gonna do the American press, and they were gonna do the Finnish press, and the records went lost in the mail. I never got my copies.
Oh,
ever. So there's only 250 of them. There was 500.
Oh,
how the fuck did that happen?
I have to look that up real quick.
And yeah, anytime people start saying like or we go through and you'll come out.
Let me see if I can't find what I'm.
Do you guys care if I slam half a cig again?
no. Yeah,
did I say Finland? Is it Norway? Oh, it was Finland. Okay, I got that part right.
So they never were they pressed ever, or they they got lost in the mail, or
they were pressed.
So you had the parcel en route. So how many is in one of these? That's like 50 or 30 each in these boxes.
Like 50.
Okay, so it's fucking 5 of those, and it weighs 450 pounds.
Yeah, it was a 7-inch, but still, it's just like.
I will be right back.
Yeah, you're good, man. And we never got it. So like, it's like a pretty rare record.
Yeah.
And I like watch the internet all the time to see if like they start popping up in the States. Like if some like store starts having them or something, it's never popped up. It's just been missing.
How does did you ever? How do you go about? Is there like a tracking information? You
Yeah,
get
it was
back
all
to
gone, man. It was
They're just like,
gone.
no,
It
we're
was
just
gone.
it's yeah.
It made it to a distribution warehouse, and that was the last time anybody saw it. Yeah. So like the band, we split the difference. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
we were both out money basically,
Yeah.
and such a bummer.
Yeah, that was rough with ours. Like it was at least half. You know, it was just like coming through. It's like, what happened here, guys? But I mean, it was just like the variance was pretty.
Oh, it's
Pretty
brutal.
gnarly.
I mean, I just got some stuff I have to flatten. I have a flattener, but like I can't imagine a flatten 300 or 500 records.
Yeah.
Forever. It takes 4 hours to flatten one.
Oh, I'm familiar with that being an option.
It's right there.
Oh, yeah.
It's my flattener.
So it's just like a screw system, and you can lock it in.
So is this heavy?
Oh wow!
Is that a lathe?
Yeah.
No, it's a flattener.
Oh, whoa, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then you put it between two pieces. Real quick.
Yeah.
And
Two
just,
pieces.
just
And
enough
then there's
weight
a material
to yeah.
so that the grooves don't. And then it goes into this, which is essentially a heated blanket.
Bake that bitch.
And you bake it
Wow.
3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, that's cool.
When I first started buying records, I'm sorry, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
You can only fix like 2 in a shift. That's all I was gonna say. Like, yeah.
When I first started buying records, like my brother got me just like a toy, like Audio Technica, like an LP60 or whatever,
Yeah.
like the USB thing that no one ever uses. And yeah, the first time I came into your shop, it was your wife running the front. I just started grabbing stuff, and I felt so stupid because I got a Magruder Grind record, and it was like I think it was like a clear yellow, like a Beanie Baby, like rarer one, and I was so pumped and I was ripping it, but that record player didn't have a weight. It was like one of those like workhorse ones that you just click and it does its own thing, and it kept hopping over this one spot. It was like a European import or something. And I remember hitting you up like, I don't know what to do. And like, I kept looking at videos of like people trying to like rebalance them.
Do you
in
still
ovens.
have it?
No, I gave it back to you and you immediately sold it with at ease because it was rare. And I just didn't know.
Oh, it was the turntable, not the record.
It was a combination of a little bit of a warp and the fact that my turntable was like just one of those toy ones where like it does the job, but you can't really replace the stylus or upgrade it. It's like one of those little crappy clip-in things, and you just press play, like, but it just kept hitting this one part, and it would bump over, and like, just fucking.
They're sensitive, man.
And I just didn't know yet, and now I know you can weight certain things, so that's so cool to see.
So giving the shout out to Vinyl Flat, I believe it's vinylflat.com, or look up the Vinyl Flat. It's about $200.
Okay.
If you're at home flattening one record, that might be expensive. If you have a store, it's worth $200. If you have like a collection of warped records, or say like a band, like that might be worth $200. But yeah, it takes about 4 hours to flatten a record, and it's not perfect either. Like it's not perfect, but when it works, it works. So.
Yeah.
But like I quickly realized how novice I was in my action, like just having a cheaper record player.
Oh yeah.
And then now having one that has a weight. You know, if there's stuff that's not perfect with that weight, it'll cruise on through it. I just didn't know that.
If I was gonna go on a rant.
I mean, hit that rant.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about the difference in like turntable costs and stuff. I like to keep our gear affordable for people, and there's the difference between vintage and new and so on. But I see a lot of people trying to like cut corners for price. And that doesn't mean because it's expensive that it's good, but it's more of a quality thing. Like you need to like see what you're buying. So, you know, the Crosley isn't like I don't turn my nose to Crosley because it's a cheap, crappy turntable. I turn my nose to Crosley because it doesn't use a real needle. It's bad for the grooves. It does not have a weighted arm. And if anything breaks besides the needle, you can't replace anything on it. You essentially have to throw it away and get a new one. So like, you know, yeah, that's $75 for the whole thing with speakers and everything. And I think when you spend time investing in better product, again, I'm not an audiophile. That's another one that surprises people. But like, I think it's more about like getting dependable gear. You get a nice turntable, it costs a little bit more. You can always fix it.
Yes.
When the arm breaks, you can fix it. When the belt breaks, you can fix it. When anything breaks, you can fix it. And I think that's the dependability of it. Finding, you know, places that you can get it. Like, I understand buying from a thrift shop, but like you're not getting any sort of quality control there. So just being careful with that kind of stuff. And I always talk to people like, oh yeah, I've been trying to buy a tape player from the thrift shop. I have 7 of them. None of them work. And I'm like, man, that's the price of a tape player that works. Fuck. Like, you know, it is what it is. It's lovely to buy those things for cheap. And I'm not judging people for taking that route, but like sometimes just a cheap machine like that can actually destroy your tapes. You know what I mean? So just being careful with that kind of stuff. And
I got my tax return like 2014, I think, or 16. And that's when I was like, I just have to buy a good record player. And I remember getting it and I felt so naked and afraid. Like I had to assemble it on my own. Like it was so fucking serious. I'm like putting the belt and the rubber in and everything. And I was like, oh, the one record that skipped every other time, just like a Cadillac right through that problem. It's like, God damn it, a diamond stylus. Like, I just didn't know. So I felt so bad because I hit you up probably on Instagram like, hey, I think this thing's warped.
It's okay.
And you're like, no problem. And then it was right out of the door the second I gave it to you because someone else didn't have the same problem I had. I just didn't know about, I wasn't informed or knowledgeable about like what you do need to acquire in order for things to.
All I gotta do is tape a dime to the needle.
Dude, I could have just done that, and you're right, dude. That thing was like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 off of that hop, and I was like, it's fucked. And then I've never been able to find it again. I'm sure I could on Discogs, but that wouldn't be, whatever. Okay, so I fucked everything up because I'm a smoker and I'm gonna die a bastard. But you were saying that you lost 250 tangible records?
Ah, yes, that goes back. I had to look it up. It was the Violent Spirit 7-inch, and I was splitting it with a label in Finland that was members of the band. And it just went missing, and like we've still never seen it again. I like check online all the time to see if there's any sellers in the U.S. Like the record's made it to the United States.
Oh, I see what you're doing there.
It's gonna end up in one of those weird stores. You know what I mean? Like like Blue Streak or something, or whatever that store is called.
How the fuck do you lose 257 inches?
I don't know. The tracking just stopped working. So like we were gonna do the American press of this Violent Spirit 7-inch, and they just went missing.
Did it put it somewhere and then put it back? And there was
it was bouncing between 2 distribution warehouses, like the one that comes off the airplane, and then like another one, and then they just kept going back and forth until it stopped moving. And then they're like, "Oh no, that doesn't mean we know where it is."
My friend Dexter ordered like a really hard to find Japanese import of a Modest Mouse vinyl, and he had nowhere near as much damage as losing 250 goddamn copies. But it was one of those things where it kept bouncing back and forth, and then it just ended up like in a weird like snow infested zone where there is no post office, and he still will like
check on it.
Yeah, he'll just for shits and giggles like, where are you at now? Like no movement. I don't get how the fuck that happens. That happened to a buddy of mine that did a Comic-Con exclusive shirt, and they lost like 250 shirts.
Yeah, it's like this vortex. There's this one specific, I'm not gonna name it, address in the United States on the East Coast that like is a vortex, and if you see that, it's like your thing went there, it's gone, basically.
Damn.
It's a known address. I looked it up. Look it up on Reddit. Go down your own rabbit hole. It's Mid-Atlantic, and it's like this one warehouse that it's a USPS warehouse, and everything that hits it just
What are they doing? It's Twin Peaks music, like
yeah. If you see her like, oh, it's gonna ship to this and that, and then it hits that. If it hits that address, it's gone.
You're doomed.
There must be some sort of crime going on inside that warehouse.
So you've done 34 releases, and I'm assuming that like another thing that's difficult about that too is since you started with the influx of like record store day and things that you don't particularly want to participate in, all these motherfuckers are like headlocking the pressing plants.
Yeah.
So that's probably difficult too to release stuff.
It's made it difficult for a number of things. I mean, I definitely have my ethics of why I don't personally do record store day, but at this, I've eased up on a bit of that, but I'm still fighting it.
Yeah.
I'll never do it. Like, I guess I'm more lax on why other people do it. Mm-hmm. We're all in this shit together, so I don't knock anybody. I used to be like, fuck people that do it. And it's like, nah, man. Like I was just mad and young, but I still don't do it. I just think like as an independent business, we should run our operation how we want to, not because someone tells you have to have your Hallmark holiday. Woo!
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, there's been some pushback on it. There's been a lot of independent ones that have opened, and like the prices have gone up. The places that are like kind of locking in and doing that sort of stuff, they kind of show their colors, and like it's really hard to press with those places. And there's a lot of really lovely independent record pressing in the United States and abroad, but mostly in the United States, that are like not taking those projects specifically to allow independent artists. So that's awesome. You know what I mean? There's a lot of great places you can like link up with.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah,
Have it kind of recovered from a few years back?
Yeah, they don't press with Sony. They don't press with any of these majors. Like they want to hear your band and they want to press that. And, you know, they might not be the cheapest, but they don't take. They aren't 9 months backed up anymore.
Yeah,
because there's an Adele record that is getting 100,000 copies. You know what I mean?
Gosh. So. Yeah, Herbie. Shout out to Herbie and Josh from Cobra, etc. But like, yeah, he was just in here. He did that solo record. I want to say it was 2 years ago, and I remember he was really pumped because there was a new pressing plant out of Harrisonburg, and I was really excited about that. Like, that's cool. Like, I used to go there to visit. Like, I had family there. My brother went to college there, so it was just nice that a town like that had something. But then they shut down quickly afterwards. You hear a lot of that too, where
it's a tough thing. It's like the supply and demand of it. It's not so simple to just like. I thought they did a killer job. I was bummed to see that happen. But you know, there's a number of things that happen. There's like this crazy accident that happened with their neighbor's building, and I don't particularly know why they closed. I thought they did a great job, and I miss them. Yeah, there's other new spots. I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't want to name one and not name another. So
no, yeah.
I'm throwing something out and I know nothing about, but sure. I remember something about Furnace. Either selling their equipment or selling their store, or it being did some movement happen with
major shareholder is Metallica. Metallica bought Furnace.
Oh, okay.
So the same owners still own it. But the major shareholder is Metallica.
Wow.
Actual Metallica. Like Lars Ulrich. Napster Metallica. Basically their theory behind it, I've read up on this because I am a Metallica fan too. Like they believed that they would be the number one selling artist on vinyl if their records would stay in press. And the problem was that the pressing plants were always backed up 9 months. So their records would sell out. And then their records would go out of press. And they thought that if they made their records that widely available, they would make their records be some of the top selling albums. If they just kept their records in print, because they own the pressing plant, it was self-interest that if they own the pressing plant, their albums would be the top selling records in the world.
How's that working out for them?
They were not wrong. And it's crazy. Yeah. It's real wild. I mean, they aren't the top seller. These records are not new, but like they were not wrong, and their records do sell. And I watch their records sell, and like I watch,
Master of Puppets. You can't mess with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I watch artists like the ones I work with, or bands that you're in. Your record sells out, and you lose that 9 months repressing it. That's messed up.
Yeah,
and I've watched records that I've pressed get repressed, and that was the window.
Right.
And 9 months after, you're not selling those records anymore. It's not that it's not selling. It's not that the band's not popular, but the record's not new anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
That record's not new anymore. People have moved on. Yeah. And it sucks because how are you supposed to know whether you should press 500, 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000? Things are pressing high numbers. You'd be amazed what some of these records are pressing right now. They're not 500. Like some of these big, I don't want to name.
What are the smaller increments though? Because I've done a couple things where my band was fortunate enough to have like a tangible vinyl release, but that's always scary to me as an artist because it's like, man, we can't make too many because it's fucking physical trash.
A lot of beer coasters.
The amount of bands that that are touring on the regular basis. They're doing minimum presses at 5 and 10,000.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. Yeah. But these are like national acts. Yeah. You know what I mean?
What's the lowest you can go though? Because I remember when I was doing
as low as you want. I think 100.
Yeah, because I remember doing the math and 100 was insane compared to 250.
It's still even more expensive, but they'll let you do it.
Yeah.
Because all the pricing is in the setup costs. Mm-hmm. It's like the lacquers, the mastering, it's all the back end stuff, and then the discs are what make it cheaper. So every time you're pressing, it's just
that's already
it's
there.
Funny math. As you're pressing more, that number comes down per unit. Mm-hmm. So if you're paying back end, I'm making this number up. If you're paying back end $1,000, if you make one record, it's $1,000. If you make two records, now they're $500. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why pressing 100 records is expensive.
What have you seen? Because I've been kind of checking it out, and it seems like of all the mediums, it seems like the CDs, as far as the most cost-effective
It is.
way to put out a release now. The CDs have come back around to being like crazy cheap if you're a band, if you're just trying to crank something out with 50 or 100 copies.
It's the cheapest, and I honestly encourage every single. We'll let it pass and start over.
Throwing another rager in the back of the record store.
Dude, that's just my bong smoking. Yeah, I mean, I encourage everybody to make a CD, but the thing with like CDs today is like I wouldn't necessarily make 1,000 CDs so you can try to go and sell them to every record store and get into distribution unless you got that attraction. But you should make CDs. Like every band should make their own CD. If they're on a label that put a record out and they didn't want to make CDs, you should push to put your own CD out. Like people are hungry for them. They're selling. I take small quantities, and I'm actually constantly like surprised. I've started even carrying Relapse and Tank Crime CDs just to kind of test it, and it's been good. And like a lot of my DIY labels, I've started bringing their CDs in just to kind of test it, and they're selling. So
Sick.
I'm not prepared to start carrying CDs for every title that's coming out, but I'm testing the waters on it, and it's proving me wrong. So like
there's a constant like weird resurgence.
2 years ago, I was actually like on the brink of never selling CDs, like just
Yeah,
like stop.
I just wanted to give up on it.
I was like really about to like I was gonna stop selling CDs entirely, and then it's like boomed, and like I think there's a little bit of people who are like they're over the streaming thing because like you can't support where the money's coming from, so like
Yeah.
Well, there's something about like I remember the MP3s and like the compression. There is something to that for real. Like when you get like the uncompressed like wave file that's on the CD, like it can
It's pure
there
trash.
can be difference. Like I was listening to this Joggers record back in 2000. I listened to this Joggers record on MP3 for like a year solid, and I finally like. I wanted to have it for my car because it hit a little bit harder. The drums and bass would kick in a little bit. And I got the CD, and I felt like the band re-recorded the album. I was like, this sounds so different. I'm hearing shit that I never heard before on the Spotify version. And
It's just like tighten and tighter and tighter on the
Yeah.
MP3. They just break everything down
and
and nothing.
some stuff can get kind of lost, So that's kind of cool that CDs can have a little bit.
But I think like as far as artists go, like y'all should be pressing your own CDs. I'm saying this to this you and you.
Yeah.
Like the price is down, and like as far as like when you press a record, the wholesale is gonna be $12, and it's up to you whether you want to sell it for 20, 25, or 30. But like the CDs are like, I don't want to misquote it. It's like a couple dollars.
Yeah, it's down again. It's crazy.
And
it's way
like I
down.
think people are willing to pay $10, especially if you're the artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I think people should hop on that. You're gonna make way more off a CD, but I'm not gonna say you're gonna sell as many CDs as you're gonna make vinyl. But like put that on your merch table.
Yeah.
And I think you should make it yourself. Don't lean on a label for that. Like I think this is like a great place. The cassette tapes are rough because I think there's a shortage going on with that, and the prices have gone up on that. And like I'm starting to see a little bit of like a delay in the cassette tape world. The last couple tapes I've made took a long time and cost more, and I was like, oh shit. Like I think the cool thing about the tape was like, oh yeah, we can make them and they're $5, and it's like, no, you make them and they cost $5. And everybody's like, oh well, you just DIY them, and I'm like, I think that's great, but like,
It's not the same. The quality control is not there. It doesn't hit with the same hertz. It doesn't hit with the same like openness. It can fuck up the recording.
I think there's a whole culture behind it, and I love that, and I think bands should still always do that. But I always found that like my biggest criticism with tapes, and again, this is just my opinion, people never make enough. They're like, oh, we're gonna make our demo 25 copies. I'm like, oh, you have more than 25 friends. What are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and take that how you will. It's just like, make 100, make 200. Don't make them limited. Like, why? Like, print 25. That's cool. And if you sell them, make 25 more. I think like the like limited edition thing, like your demo, it's your demonstration of your group. You're trying to, the whole point of them before was like, get gigs? So if you only make 25, like how many promoters are you handing them to? Are you even giving your demo to the promoters? Like, I think a lot of bands aren't even giving their demos they aren't even handing their demos out. They're selling, which is obviously a great way to make money as a band, but like, I don't know. I think sometimes that idea is lost. I think making a tape as a format's great. I think people want as much to support. They want a record that's really expensive and time consuming. Tape's cheaper, CD's even cheaper. Digital, like.
It's cool though. There are like the vinyl freaks. There are the tape freaks. There are the CD freaks.
And I think it's important to acknowledge all of them.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's cool once everything moved into like a lot of the digital stuff. It was kind of bands scrambling to figure out, all right, what's the physical thing I can have at my merch table?
Yeah.
That is like affordable for us to create, or if a band is on their own, kind of making their own shit. Like, yeah, and then tapes came back in. It was like, oh sweet, we can do that. We can manage that. We can figure out a way to afford that. And now it seems like CDs again are like kind of falling into that space as tapes have gone up.
It's always this weird trifecta with them though too. And I remember like when tapes were like getting big again, I was like, oh, this is so sick because tapes sound so cool. And then I remember there was a point in time where we made tapes and it's like, holy fuck, the tape is gonna be like $8 to sell for us to get anything back. Mm-hmm. Like that is, I don't ever want to sell a tape for $8, but that's the only way we can do it.
$8.
We were fucking nerds, but oh wait, are you saying that it's worse now?
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
But I mean, not the dubbed demo handwritten. And that's still $5. You know what I mean? But like, if you're like getting like a professionally dubbed tape and stuff, like they're $10-15 sometimes.
I think I may have even said this in a prior episode. If I have said it, we can take it out. My favorite tape moment from growing up was I was in my room in elementary school listening to Faith No More and looking at the liner notes on the tape. My stepdad came in. He was like, what are you listening to? It was like just a quintessential sort of kid dad moment. I was like, Faith No More, and he like looked at the liner notes and he got so offended. He was like, you might not have faith no more, but I certainly do.
Thanks, Dad.
Like, oh, Dad, it's just music. Yeah.
You have actually said that story once. It was the intro of the Lindsay's List episode. I thought it was highly inappropriate.
Yeah,
and had
I want
nothing
to
to do
share
with
it
our
with you.
guest.
I love that story.
That's good. It was a good one.
That was a good power, like Hulk Hogan move from your dad. You may not have faith no more.
Yeah, he was
but how did he finish that? Because I still
he
have
ripped his
faith.
T-shirt off.
Well, I certainly do. And yeah, and he ripped his shirt and was like, what you gonna do, brother? I don't know.
What do you have next coming up for you? Like you're doing DJ stuff and...
Yeah, so like the DJ stuff's been like a thing I've been doing again for a number of years. I have like the Italo night I do with Ben Speed.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out Ben Speed. Shout out Loud Night. Shout out Dark Entries. And I've been doing a bunch of like places around town. I've been spinning at Loso, which was previously the Jungle Room.
Okay.
Me and Ben spin at Cobra and a number of other places. I have like a monthly night that we're going to start doing at Loso. So it's like a vinyl conflict curation.
Sweet.
I'll spin some of them. I don't necessarily have to. The first one's coming up, so we haven't like really gotten a calendar of it yet.
So the place is called Loso?
Yeah, LOSO.
Okay. And it's right next to the Broadberry on
Behind
Broad.
Sabai.
Yeah, behind Sabai, which is a really good restaurant. And that manager's cool. Sweet. Okay, cool. That's
So I've
tight.
been doing a bit of that.
What the fuck is going on out there, dude?
I think someone's dead.
I'm not gonna lie.
There's like
We go on a segue here, and I tell a story that's not relevant at all to the episode, and it's all in all sad. So we edited it the fuck out, and here we go. Back to the episode.
Last year I got a little bit overwhelmed with a number of things. If I was gonna quantify what I want to say, like when I moved into the bigger store, I started taking on bigger projects. I just kind of felt, I had more access to stuff. We were seeing a little bit more business. So I was like, oh, well, I need to put out more records. I need to book more shows. I need to book bigger shows. I need to put out bigger records. And like, I hit a wall with it. It got really overwhelming because the store also at the same time simultaneously continued to grow too. So I'm just the same person that came over from the last place with no training on what this was going to look like. So I'm actually like, I dare say that I'm taking a break from stuff just for like mental clarity.
Good.
Because I can't say how long I'm doing that, and I can't say what's permanent. I can't say what's not permanent, what's temporary. But there's bands we've been talking to. Nothing solid. There's like a couple reissues that like are in the pocket that like should I take that step, they're gonna be really easy to pick back up on.
That's why I wanted to segue into you doing like the DJ stuff because.
Well, sure. And I was going to talk about Trick Dice too. Like that's a partnered project with Nicholas F. And he's got a number of projects. Again, nothing's like locked in yet, so I can't quite say that. But I don't want to make it sound like that's not happening. Like he's definitely got his eye on some things, and I back whatever he's going for. So there's some really cool things cooking, but like they're a little too early.
Yeah.
To like shout out. The DJing has been like a personal thing for me because like it's my personal art expression. Like I don't do a lot of that. I'm not an artist. So, and again, it's not my music. I'm just like doing what I've been nerding out. So like, yeah, I spend all this time like looking for these punk and hardcore records to sell, but like DJing is me taking those same things and flexing like my creative mental muscle, if I will. Like I'm finding tracks that are really enthusing to me. Like and other people, and I get to share.
Taste.
Yeah. So like, you know, I look at DJing from like an old school aspect where it's like not locking into something specific and having a very hyper specific thing, but like playing the songs that to me makes sense in order. And like, you know, sometimes I take a left turn. I always pack my crate ahead of time, but I don't put anything in order. I'm like, this is what I want to hear tonight, and then I really freeball it from there.
Nice.
And that's always just been like a really fun thing. I take time to like, who am I DJing with? Where am I DJing? What's the event? You know, who do I think is gonna show up? And trying to like, you know, pre-plan and make sure like, I do a little bit of digital. I did digital over the weekend. I was just in Baltimore and got to DJ this after party for the Flat Spot Records Fest.
Oh, cool.
I did digital at that, and that was really cool. But like for the most part, I'm doing vinyl, so I have to like really have a finite amount of tracks that I'm bringing. Like, I can overpack, that's fine, but you don't want to do that either. So like, just really trying to like get it locked in, not bring the same stuff every time, and keep it interesting. Watch the floor, see if people are dancing. Like, I just love being able to share that with people. And you know, it started off like doing it for punks at nighttime, and then we've almost found this whole separate. There's people now that I only know from DJing. And this is like kind of cool. Like it's this whole separate other thing, or these people don't even know about the record store. And it's just, I don't know, it's fun. Like,
I remember
there is something about being able to share like from that, like even just when we're like, you know, from bartending, when you get control of the musical device where you can share,
change the vibe
and create a vibe, you know, there's something really, really satisfying about that.
It's one of the few things I feel like I'm doing these days where I'm just like, I really enjoy a lot. That's not to say I don't have hobbies, I do, but like where I'm sharing with other people. A lot of my personal hobbies are very private at home. Like, you know, I collect and stuff. I don't collect to share that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
always thought it was like really cool, like when I figured out like the kind of music you were doing when you were doing your DJ sets and like how good you got at that. And then I've seen a few times where it's like you and Ben Speed, and it's such a fluid, like it's just such a good flow, and it's such a cool vibe. And you see all these people that, you know, you see anyone from like some art school kid to like someone that's just tatted out like us, and everyone's just having a good. You host good environments, and that's what's cool.
I always like to joke because they're like, "Oh, I don't dance." I'm like, "Well, you got to come out because I bet you're wrong." And like, I always want to like. I've gotten so many people who have sworn to me that they don't dance to dance, and I'm like, that's fun for me. So I don't know. I think it's something we write off a lot. Well, I'm not a dancer. I'm going to look dumb. It's like, shut up. Like, oh, you don't like having fun? Okay. Yeah. And you don't need to come every month. Whatever. Just like you should come check it out though. It's a good time. And that's been fun because I've gotten to collaborate with a lot of other people who like are disc junkies and disc jockeys, and just like, you know, getting to play together and learning from each other and sharing with each other, and we learn a lot from each other and seeing different scenes. And there's a lot of really great DJ scenes in Richmond right now. Different venues, different cliques. I think what like Behavior's doing is incredible. Big shout out to them. They definitely got me like really interested in doing what I'm doing. So I admire everything they're doing. I think they're crushing that whole underground scene for sure.
Cool.
The one thing that I want to talk about with like vinyl collecting and record shops in general, this is the one topic I feel like that gets left out a lot with the different conversations I'm having with people, is like, I think that we've changed so much with how technology's changed, and everything's like so instant gratification. You know what I mean? Like we can listen to things, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Tidal, I don't care, like Bandcamp. It's gotten too immediate, and I think what always, since starting record collecting, has been interesting for me is that like you're always left with this finite analog box in front of you, whether you're at this like massive thrift shop with 1,000 records, or you're at a big record store like Plan 9 that has tons and tons of records, or like the old Vinyl Conflict that was like you could look at the whole thing in 20 minutes, or the new one where you can be here for an hour. But you're only seeing what's in your face. And I know that people want instant gratification, but I think that there's this big chunk of music that's getting missed by people not being, and I'm not I'm not saying my customers don't do it. I just think like in general, people are kind of missing the point, and like you should take the chance to dig and see what's going on. You shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. And that's what I'm always trying to share with people is like, come in. If you're walking in the store and you're looking for Kendrick Lamar, I have it. Or maybe I don't because I'm sold out. And then the conversation's over. You know what I mean? And like, I think that's like, that's not how any of us found any of our favorite records. And I think that we're getting further and further away from that. We're like, yo, take that extra 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour and dig into these records. Like, you know, look what's in the shelf, ask questions, utilize the listening station. And like, there's so much music out there that people don't know about, you know, and like me include everybody. Like I think that like the record store, whether we're talking about Vinyl Conflict or any store in your own hometown or in town for that matter, whether you're popping in a different shop or not, like, I think there's a whole world of stuff that's missing right now. And I think people would be really surprised with what's right in their face that they're kind of skipping. So really, I've always absolutely loved record collecting because of what I don't know. I love going to a record store and picking up a record that has a cover that looks incredible and like taking a chance on it if it's affordable, or if it's not, like, man, this looks crazy. I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll play it digital, or I'll take it to the listening station, or I'll just ask them, hey, what's up with this? Like,
Yeah.
I think all of us would hear so much interesting music if we took the time to do that. And I've tried to make Vinyl Conflict that experience as best as possible. And I think there's a lot of people who understand that. I think there's a lot of people
back
who
into
understand
the exploration part of it.
That's why we've been here for so long. And I always watch what I'm saying, because I'm not trying to say that other record stores don't do this.
No.
What I'm trying to say is that owning this record store, I'm trying to encourage people to do this. And I'm trying to encourage you to go in other stores and do it too, but especially with us. Like, I have the people who work here, and I stock what I stock because I want people to enjoy that as much as I do. I hope that people know they can do that, or if they weren't unsure, that they hear this and know they can. You know, you're going to catch people on a bad day. Sometimes your question is going to come off wrong. Sometimes your question is going to sound insane, but sometimes your question's not going to sound insane. Like the one big thing I always say to people is I found out about a lot of my favorite music from customers.
Oh, cool.
People
Yeah.
come in, oh, hey, do you have the new Blood Incantation? I'm like, what's Blood Incantation? And then I check it out and I like it. And now I can share it with everybody. Like, ask me for your records. Like, just because it's not on the shelf doesn't mean we're going to be like, no, I never heard of it.
Yeah.
Again, I can't speak for everybody on every day, but like, you know, like, for the most part, we're actually writing that stuff down and looking it up. And like, you know, we don't order all of it, but we order a lot of it. And I found out about so much music from the customers to this day
awesome.
still.
Yeah.
Since the old neighborhood to the new one, like every time I come in here, it's really hard to leave without some sort of really good album from the past or from the current. And with that being said, like, man, you've done a really good job at like building such a fucking wonderful and reliable and knowledgeable crew. And yeah, everyone has off days, you know, that's fine.
I
but
wasn't
like,
even talking about anybody. I just mean,
no
you should feel good
implications.
to like ask these questions is my
But
point.
like, you've done such a good job. Like, you have like such a wheelhouse of people that can answer anything, and it's really cool. And I'm glad you're still doing good, and I'm glad you're still killing it. And you're a sweetheart, dude. And you've done a lot of fucking work in the city. So I'm really appreciative that you came on. And
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to still do it. I know you asked me at a kind of crazy time before, but
dude,
that's why I thought about it one day. I was like sitting there, I was like, oh my God, I got to hit Harrison back, and like, we need to do this. Like,
no, it's all good. I mean, everything's kind of a crazy time right now. So thank you so much for hitting me back, and we're here.
Absolutely.
And Bobby, thank you for being you, and
oh, thank you.
thank you for being on.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.